Why did Allah create humans? The purpose of life according to Islam. Somewhere, right now, someone is lying awake asking the same question that has haunted kings, philosophers, and ordinary people for thousands of years. Why am I here? Not just born, but created, on purpose, with a mind that wonders, a heart that feels, and a life that will one day end. It's a question that doesn't care about your religion, your nationality, or your century. It has been whispered in palaces and prisons, asked by the wealthy and the broken. Some have searched for the answer in success, others in pleasure. Some gave up searching altogether. But what if the answer was never hidden? What if it was written down, clearly, over 1400 years ago, waiting for anyone willing to look? To understand why Allah created humans, according to Islam, we must first go back to a moment before mountains had names, before oceans had shores, before the first human breath was ever drawn. Islamic teaching describes a universe unfolding in careful stages, the heavens, the earth, and everything between them, brought into being not by accident, but by design. The Quran repeatedly draws attention to this order. The sun and moon following their courses, the sky held up without visible pillars, the earth spread out and made livable. For early listeners in 7th century Arabia, a world of desert winds and starlit skies, these were not abstract ideas. They looked up and saw the same moon we see tonight, and they were asked to wonder, could all of this exist without purpose? This mattered because the Arabia of that time was not short on gods. Tribes worshipped stone idols, ancestral spirits, and forces of nature, often without asking why they existed at all, or what their lives were meant to mean. Life was frequently short, harsh, and shaped by tribal loyalty rather than deeper reflection. Into this world came a message that reframed everything, not just who deserves worship, but why human beings exist in the first place. The question was no longer just who made us, it became, what are we here to do? The Quran answers this with striking directness. In chapter 51, verse 56, Allah states, "I did not create jinn and mankind except to worship me." At first glance, this might sound narrow, as if human existence is reduced to rituals, prayers, and religious duties. But classical Islamic scholarship understands this word, worship, in Arabic, ibadah, far more broadly than that. Ibadah is not limited to prayer or fasting. It includes every act done consciously in submission and gratitude to God, honesty in business, kindness to parents, patience in hardship, justice in leadership, even the way a person treats an animal or speaks to a stranger. The great scholar Ibn Taymiyyah described worship as an all-encompassing term, covering everything Allah loves and is pleased with, whether in speech or action, inward or outward. In this understanding, life itself becomes an act of worship when lived with awareness of God. This reframes the entire human story. We were not created merely to exist, consume, and disappear. We were created to know our Creator, to recognize the signs around us, and to live in a way that reflects gratitude for the gift of existence. But worship alone does not complete the picture. The Quran adds another layer of purpose in chapter 2, verse 30, describing a conversation before humanity even walked the earth. Allah informs the angels, "Indeed, I will place a successive authority upon the earth." The angels respond with a striking question. Will you place there one who causes corruption and sheds blood while we glorify you? Allah's reply is simple yet profound. I know that which you do not know. This verse introduces the concept of Khalifa, often translated as steward or trustee. Human beings were not created only to worship in isolation, but to carry responsibility on earth, to build, to cultivate, to establish justice, and to care for creation. Unlike angels, who have no choice but to obey, humans were given free will. That freedom is not a flaw in the design. It is the very thing that gives human worship meaning. An angel's obedience is automatic. A human's obedience is chosen. This idea connects to something even deeper in Islamic theology, the concept of fitra, the natural inclination toward belief in a creator that Islam teaches is embedded within every human soul from birth. A well-known hadith recorded by Imam Muslim states that every child is born upon this natural disposition, and it is outside influences that shape them otherwise. This suggests that the search for purpose is not something imposed from outside. It is something already present within us, waiting to be recognized rather than invented. Islamic scholarship also draws attention to human uniqueness in the structure of creation itself. Unlike angels, created from light and bound to obedience, or animals driven by instinct, human beings were given intellect, moral choice, and the capacity for self-reflection. The Quran describes humanity as being honored above much of creation in chapter 17, verse 70, entrusted with responsibilities that other beings were not given. Yet this trust comes with accountability. Islamic teaching consistently pairs purpose with responsibility. Life is described as a test, not a random experience. Chapter 67, verse 2 states that death and life were created specifically to test which of us performs the best deeds. This transforms daily existence into something meaningful rather than accidental. Every choice, kindness or cruelty, patience or rage, honesty or deceit, becomes part of a larger story, one that continues beyond this life, into what Islam describes as ultimate accountability before God. So when the pieces come together, a coherent picture emerges. Humans were created to know and worship their Creator, not through empty ritual, but through a life of conscious gratitude. They were entrusted with responsibility over the earth, given free will to choose righteousness, rather than being forced into it, and placed into a temporary test whose results carry eternal weight. This is why Islamic scholars often describe worship and purpose as intertwined rather than separate. To worship is to live intentionally. To be human is to be trusted. Why does this matter beyond theology? Because it changes how a person experiences ordinary life. If existence has no inherent purpose, then suffering feels senseless, and success feels hollow once achieved. But if every moment, work, family, struggle, rest, can become an act of worship when done with sincerity, then nothing is wasted. A person washing dishes with patience or forgiving someone who wronged them is not living a smaller life than someone leading a nation. Both can be fulfilling the same purpose. This perspective also softens the fear of insignificance that quietly troubles so many people today. In a world where value is often measured by followers, wealth, or status, Islamic teaching offers a different measure entirely: sincerity and intention. A person does not need fame to fulfill their purpose. They need awareness. It also reframes suffering. If life is a test rather than a random sequence of events, hardship is not proof of meaninglessness. It becomes part of the process of refinement, patience, and growth. Perhaps this is why the question of purpose has never disappeared, no matter how advanced society becomes. Technology has changed how we live, but not why we exist. People still lie awake with the same ancient question, because meaning cannot be manufactured, it can only be discovered. And Islamic teaching suggests that discovery was never meant to be difficult. It was written into the sky, echoed in scripture, and placed quietly within the human heart, waiting, patiently, for someone to stop long enough to notice it. In the end, perhaps the most powerful realization is this: we were not created to wander without direction. We were created to remember. If you enjoyed discovering the wisdom behind this story, subscribe to The Wisdom Behind for more authentic Islamic documentaries.